again, listeners. I had been looking at 2 Samuel 21, where David and his men fought and killed 4 Philistine giants. But as I was reading about David's mighty men, I stumbled onto Benaiah. He was a man who worked behind the scenes for King David and King Solomon. His story is sometimes overlooked. I'm going to read 2 Samuel 23, 20 through 23. And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, he slew 2 lion-like men of Moab. He went down also and slew a lion in the midst of a pit in time of snow. And he slew an Egyptian, a goodly man, and the Egyptian had a spear in his hand. But he went down to him with a staff and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand and slew him with his own spear. These things did Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and had the name among 3 mighty men. He was more honorable than the 30, but he attained not to the first 3. And David set him over his guard. I first wanted to talk about those, those 3 feats that they listed there. First one was killing the Ariels of Moab. Scholars are not sure about the true definition of Ariels. In Hebrew, it is derived of 2 root words meaning lion and God. I think Aria is lion, and El, means deity or God. That's God with a little g. So, I can't help thinking, about those root words and saying these are from, like the hybrid breed of, like a lion god or something that came from the same place that the giants came from, But at any rate, these Ariels, they were not mere men, but, they were soldiers that were ferocious. And Benaiah killed, 2 of them, And then killing the lion in the pit. I wish there was more detail. I would say there was probably a good reason to kill it. It may have posed danger to dwellers nearby or had killed many sheep, something like that, but it was kind of a threat somehow. But, back then you'd have a sword or a spear, so killing a lion was no small feat, to achieve. And then to join that lion in a pit, which kind of limits your escape, that's a pretty big feat, and they said too, it was on a snowy day. So then you got that, working against you too. Probably slippery and cold and everything, But then the third one was killing the Egyptian giant. They said he was 5 cubits tall, and that makes him about 7.5 feet tall. So that's, he's a pretty good sized guy. And the Egyptian had a big spear. I would think the Egyptian probably underestimated Benaiah. He was bigger and had the better weapon. Benaiah was probably super fast and quickly outmaneuvered him, He took his weapon away from him and killed him with it. Wow. Warrior, fighter, and later leader. I'm going to talk about what we do know about Benaiah, So, Benaiah, he came from, he was a Levite priest that, you know, they were in the line of Aaron. But after Saul died and David arrived to take the crown, there were warriors that, were ready to help him. And among them were several thousand Levites. And Levites, not all Levites were priests, but they took care of the tabernacle or the temple, later on. But Benaiah's father, Jehoiada, a high priest, brought 3,700 men with him. And it says that in 1 Chronicles 12:27. But we think Benaiah was young when David first became king, probably because that Benaiah also served Solomon, later on after King David had died. But he had to work his way up the ranks, But Benaiah's father and grandfather were both valiant men. So, Benaiah, he was, he followed in some big footsteps, and he made his way, up into the high command as well, I'm going to read 2 Samuel 8:18. And Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over both the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and David's sons were the chief rulers. David had a royal guard, and we think that it was these Kerethites and Pelethites. And Benaiah was the commander, of David's royal guard. And we think it was made up of these guys. They were foreign fighters, possibly Philistine, origin. And David sort of had a history of earning loyalty from foreigners like that because in military, sometimes those guys did that to so there wouldn't be all the, sometimes with your family and all, you get involved in some different things, but militarily, they thought, sometimes it's better to bring in these foreigners. Next, I'm going to read 1 Chronicles 27:5-6. The third captain of the host for the third month was Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, a chief priest, and in the course were 24,000. This is that Benaiah who was mighty among the 30 and above the 30, and in his course was Ammizabad, his son. So, we find this information in a section about the army divisions. Benaiah was commander of the 3rd Rotational Army Division. He was a mighty man. He was chief, and he had 24,000 men in his division. He was among the 30, but he was over the 30. And it also states that his son was over his division. Benaiah means God builds up. I just wanted to add that in, but I was just looking at these different scriptures where he was mentioned because we just have to look for it to kind of find what we can about him, Okay, now I'm going to go into a part getting near the end of David's life and all where Benaiah shows up pretty big. When King David was getting older, his sons, were thinking about, being the next king. One of David's sons, Absalom, had, tried to overthrow David, but he was killed by Joab. But that was David's nephew, and he was an army commander then. But The next coup is the one I want to talk about, by one of his younger sons. David had to endure another one, near the end of his life. I'm going to read 1 Kings 1, 5 through 10. Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be king. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time, saying, Why hast thou done so? And he also was a very goodly man, and his mother bare him after Absalom. And he conferred with Joab the son of Jeruah, and also Abiathar the priest, and they following Adonijah helped him. But Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei and Rei, and the mighty men which belonged to David, were not with Adonijah. And Adonijah slew sheep and oxen and fat cattle by the stone of Zoheleth, which is by Enogral, and called all his brethren, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. But Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, and the mighty men, and Solomon his brother, he called not. So Adonijah had decided he was going to, proclaim himself king. He was trying to take advantage of the king's fragile state. Adonijah won support of Joab and Abiathar the priest and others, but Zadok the priest, Benaiah, and Nathan and the mighty men were not, with Adonijah. Anyway, Nathan the prophet spoke to Bathsheba, and they went to King David, and they made him aware of the plot, But now I'm going to read 1 Kings 1, 32 through 39. And King David said, Call me Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada. And they came before the king. The king also said unto them, Take with you the servants of your Lord, and cause Solomon my son to ride upon my own mule, and bring him down to Gihon, and let Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anoint him there king over Israel, and blow ye with the trumpet, and say, God save King Solomon. Then ye shall come up after him, that he may come and sit upon my throne, for he shall be king in my stead, and I have appointed him to be ruler over Israel and over Judah. And Benaiah the son of Jehoiada answered the king and said, Amen, the Lord God of my Lord the king say so too. As the Lord hath been with my Lord the king, even so be he with Solomon, and make his throne greater than the throne of my Lord King David. So Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Kerethites and the Pelethites went down and caused Solomon to ride upon King David's mule, and brought him to Gihon. And Zadok the priest took a horn of oil out of the tabernacle and anointed Solomon. And they blew the trumpet, and all the people said, God save King Solomon. So King David, even in his weakened state, was able to outmaneuver Adonijah's coup. They had the military presence of Benaiah and the Kerethites and Pelethites, that he was commanding. But Adonijah, his life was spared one time, but later he made an inappropriate request to Solomon through, Solomon's mother, Bathsheba. But Adonijah had asked to marry Abishag, this maiden that had looked over David when he was gotten older. I'm going to read 1 Kings 2, 23 through 25. Then King Solomon sware by the Lord, saying, God do so to me, and more also, if Adonijah have not spoken this word against his own life. Now therefore, as the Lord liveth, which hath established me and set me on the throne of David my father, and who hath made me a house, as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death this day. And King Solomon sent by the hand of Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and he fell upon him that he died. I think all this, when all this happened, Solomon was kind of reminded of that coup. At first he was letting them live, but then, he had just had enough, and he had him killed, and it was Benaiah that he sent to do it, But I want to read 1 Kings 2:28-35. Then tidings came to Joab, for Joab had turned after Adonijah, though he turned not after Absalom. And Joab fled unto the tabernacle of the Lord, and caught hold of the horns of the altar. And it was told King Solomon that Joab had fled into the tabernacle of the Lord, and behold, he is by the altar. Then Solomon sent Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, saying, Go, fall upon him. And Benaiah came to the tabernacle of the Lord, and said unto him, Thus say the king, Come forth. And he said, Nay, but I will die here. And Benaiah brought the king word again, saying, Thus said Joab, and thus he answered me. And the king said unto him, Do as he has said, and fall upon him, and bury him, that thou mayest take away the innocent blood which Joab shed from me and from the house of my father. And the Lord shall return his blood upon his own head, who fell upon 2 men more righteous and better than he, and slew them with a sword. My father David, not knowing thereof, to wit, Abner the son of Ner, captain of the host of Israel, and Amasa the son of Jether, captain of the host of Judah. Their blood shall therefore return upon the head of Joab, and upon the head of his seed forever. But upon David, and upon his seed, and upon his house, and upon his throne, shall there be peace forever from the Lord. So Benaiah the son of Jehoiada went up, and fell upon him, and slew him, and he was buried in his own house in the wilderness. And the king put Benaiah the son of Jehoiada in his room over the host, and Zadok the priest did the king put in the room of Abiathar. Solomon, he had taken the priest Abiathar's priesthood away, but he spared his life. But Joab, he had been an army commander. He was Solomon's cousin, but he was real impulsive and ruthless. Benaiah was tempered, quiet, loyal, respectful. This execution was symbolic. As a Levite and a descendant of Aaron, Benaiah had the God-given right to protect the tabernacle. He executed judgment not only as a warrior under the king, but as a Levite with authority to do so on God's behalf. There was another, Shimei, who had cursed and insulted King David during Absalom's coup, and he had been spared several times, but finally he had left Jerusalem when he was told not to. So Benaiah, was also called to execute him. We know that Benaiah was made commander over Solomon's army after Joab's death. Solomon's rule overall was more peaceful than David's. We know that Benaiah helped establish Solomon's kingdom. Solomon, he could trust him unconditionally and rewarded him for it. Benaiah is not mentioned after this, but we're sure, he was a good, trusted leader. So what can we learn from Benaiah? His loyalty and strength was a lesson in trusting in God. God can use ordinary people to do extraordinary things. Let God work through you. You will be tapping into a power far greater than your own. You know, his courage makes me think about stepping out in faith. Okay, guys, that about does it for today. Until next time.